With multiple bullseyes on the loose and Matt Murdock getting ever closer to a darker conspiracy inside his own Supermax prison, which will be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Well, let's hop into the pages of Daredevil issue number 33 and find out together, shall we? So then, at the end of the previous issue, we discovered that there's not just one bullseye running around terrorizing New York City and causing a lockdown, but in fact, there's several bullseyes. How the hell did that happen, you're all probably wondering to yourself? Well, that question is answered at the beginning of this issue. It seems that when Mayor Wilson Fisk threw a small fortune and an army of scientists under Ravencroft Asylum to try and make for him the ultimate human weapon that he could point like any other gun, they went to work. The only problem is they ran into a massive roadblock almost instantly, and that is that Bullseye himself is so violent, so volatile, and so insane in the membrane they just couldn't condition his mind no matter how hard they tried. So because of that, they opted to do the next best thing. If this Bullseye couldn't be made to follow orders, they'll simply just clone themselves a new one from scratch. They didn't tell Kingpin this, by the way, figuring that he would probably be mad about how they were spending his money. And because, let's face it, this is the Marvel Universe and clones always end up blowing up in their masters' faces, Bullseye actually managed to come to in one of the tubes, and when he heard about this plan, he decided to break out, liberate the clones, and get himself a little entourage started. Of course, that also means we don't know which Bullseye is the real one. Though right now, Elektra in her role as Daredevil probably doesn't care. A fatal blow from a clone of Bullseye is going to be just as fatal as a killing blow from the original article. The clones ultimately do prove to be every bit as sadistic as the real McCoy, choosing to draw out the fight as long as possible to inflict as much pain on their old foe Elektra as they can. When it quickly becomes apparent that Elektra isn't going to be able to win this fight, she decides to do something that disagrees with her, and that is call for help. Up until now, the Bullseyes have been trying to move in silence, knowing that too much noise and too much death would bring the Avengers of New York down around their heads. Elektra uses this to her advantage and fires off a shot, meaning that Iron Man and Spider-Man can come on in and save her. Now from there we transition on over to Butchie, the illegitimate son of Wilson Fisk the Kingpin and business partner of Mike Murdock. They're still continuing their plan to try and steal New York's underworld for themselves, but they also end up hitting a major snag this issue, mainly that Izzy Libris' surviving son has left New York, meaning they won't be able to kidnap him and use him for leverage in their plot. It's on the TV these two conspirators realize that things are going nuts over at the prison. It seems that the explosion that Matt Murdock caused at the end of the previous issue was just the beginning of things to come. The prison has been completely taken over and the inmates are only going to allow one person in, Detective Cole North, aka the cop who more or less is responsible for Daredevil being in jail right now. Kristen McDuffie is there too, Daredevil's current lawyer and Matt Murdock's former love interest. Naturally, she's worried about her client, but what happens next, no one could have guessed. While that is going on, Elektra manages to come to in the care of Iron Man. She's licking her wounds and dealing with a very bruised ego. She realizes that she's not going to be able to take down a whole small army of bullseyes on her own, but maybe she doesn't have to. After all, Tony Stark is an inventor and a problem solver, and he loves to build things, so maybe he should build Elektra a bullseye killing machine. Oh sure, this certainly isn't how Matt would deal with the problem as Daredevil, but Elektra isn't Matt, right? Maybe it's about time she starts doing things her own way. And hey, speaking of things Matt Murdock wouldn't regularly do, as the comic begins to wind down, we check back on in with Cole North. He's allowed into the prison and realizes that a number of the guards are still alive, but in a deeply frenzied state. Naturally, North worries how exactly Daredevil's holding up right now. It's not like these criminals liked Matt all that much, but it seems that whatever their opinion of him was, it's changed as of recently. For you see, Matt Murdock isn't a prisoner of this riot, he's actually the one leading the charge as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Daredevil issue number 33, everyone. Another deeply enjoyable, thoroughly exciting, if slightly understated by the standards of this run issue. As always, I'm impressed at how Zdarsky is able to so seamlessly weave all these thematic tendrils between all of the different stories of the characters in this book. Essentially, in this issue, everyone is doing stuff they don't normally do. Elektra is asking for help in a scientific way to take down her foes. Kingpin is actively choosing to do nothing about the chaos and just wait and see how it all turns out, and Matt Murdock himself would seem to have compromised his beloved morality in some way. Obviously, I'm sure he has his reasons and we're going to learn all about it, but but still getting to see Daredevil on a throne of burning prison stuff is damn cool. Overall, I'd feel comfortable giving this one another deeply positive 8 out of 10. It's just one of the most consistent Marvel books on the shelf right now, if not one of the most consistent books overall.
Hey there everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.